Kath submitted a set of icons here related to entrepreneurship, and specifically entrepreneurship skills, which got me thinking about a number of things. I think that one of the things that icons can be useful for when developing a set related to a particular topic. And this kind of comes back to the book template that book note-taking template that Joy shared last week, where there was this kind of commentary box where you had icons related to a smiley face for things you liked, a frowny face for things you didn't like, and a few others. One of the things that icons can do is, in a sense, in addition to being able to use those icons to capture ideas, they almost become a lens through which to view a particular chunk of material. And one example of what I mean by that is some former professors of mine, education professors, when I got my master's in teaching, they developed these things called the icons of depth and complexity. And what these are, this is for, they create a game out of it, actually. They have this deck of cards, and each of these cards relates to one of these particular icons. And on the back of each card is a question. So let's just to give you an example here. And this, I'm not sure if this is backwards for you guys. It looks backwards for me. I don't know if the computer fixes that. But this one says patterns, and it has this patterns icon right here. And these icons are specifically related to literature. So the idea is that as you're reading a book, and this is a game too, so there's this little spinner that, let me get this thing off the screen that you guys can't see. There's a spinner here. So the idea is in an individual or a classroom setting, as you're reading a book, maybe at the end of each chapter, at your table group, you play this game and you spin the wheel, and whatever category it lands on, you pick a card from that category and then read the question and have a discussion about it related to the book. So a few examples here. This one's all about patterns. And the question is, what plot pattern did you notice in this story that you have noticed in other stories? So in this example, it's finding patterns across different stories that you have read. One of the other icons here is multiple perspectives. These glasses, right? Seeing something through the lens of somebody else. This one asks, how does the gender, male or female, of the main character impact this story? So seeing the world through the lens of a particular character, or the gender of a particular character, and thinking about how that impacts things. Another, ethics. This question is, how were prejudices revealed in this story? A few more just to get a good idea. This one's relate over time, and it looks like they went through kind of some iteration here. It used to be these arrows, but then they changed it to this thing that says past, present, future. The question on this particular card, what impact might this story have on the future? So thinking about what's going on in this book, what impact might this particular story have on the future? Final one as an example, trends with a little icon graph. Does this story remind you of another story you might have read? How are they similar or different? So again, connecting to bigger picture trends going on in other stories. And there's a whole deck of these cards with different questions. I think there's a dozen or so questions for each of these icons. And I experimented this with this myself after the former professor gave me this free pack here. And it was a really interesting way to interact with a novel. So I did this while reading a Sherman Alexie novel, who's a really interesting author. And I think what I did was I stopped at the end of each chapter and I just pulled a couple of cards and read those questions and used them to reflect on what I had just read. So I bring that up here for a number of reasons. One is you get to see another application or specific use of icons, and specifically the way that connecting those icons to the experience of interacting with ideas. So in this case, it specifically applies to reading a book and then kind of reflecting on that book, whether you're doing this yourself or you're doing it in a group and having a chat with others. But I could also see, I guess, I mean, this kind of relates exactly to the way that Joy used it. She was using her icons in a very similar way to interact with the books that she was reading. And for some reason, I think because since I'm somewhat immersed in entrepreneurship right now, and entrepreneurship is a new thing for me, something that I've been delving into just within the past couple of years. But I like the idea of developing a set of key ideas with icons associated with them, to be able kind of at any time to focus in on one of those key ideas and think about whatever you're working on through the lens of that particular idea. That's kind of, I don't know if that's making sense or if it's too abstract or what, but that's what came to mind here. Oh, that pauses when I move it. Okay. So you guys might be getting brief pauses as there's this little control panel thing that I think you guys see as well that doesn't actually, well, the control panel that I see doesn't show up on your screen, maybe, as I'm moving it around. So sorry if there were some glitches or blips there. In this particular, as well, Joy, you're a librarian. Melaine, you're involved in education. This specific thing is called the Icon Game, which you can find. This is a cool game that you can buy. I think there's a place online. I should look up the site. If you happen to be interested in picking up this particular game. But you can also imagine creating games like this for different subjects, different contexts. It's a cool game reflection format that you might be able to make your own in some way, or create for your family, make your own game night or something like that. It'd be cool to see if any of you experiment with that. Let me know, and it'd be fun to see how it goes.